Did you know that in 1965, a classical pianist had millions of Americans humming an instrumental tune about walking through a forest? That's right. While the Beatles and Rolling Stones dominated the airwaves, some artists managed just one magical moment in the spotlight before disappearing into obscurity. Today, we're diving into 15 forgotten one-hit wonders from 1965, songs that topped the charts and then vanished, along with their creators. Some of these tunes sold millions of records, yet their performers never again reached such heights. Prepare for a musical time capsule that will have you saying, "Wait, I remember that song." Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video. Number 1 Goldfinger, Shirley Bassey. When you think of James Bond themes, you probably remember Adele's Skyfall, or maybe Paul McCartney's Live and Let Die. But in 1965, a Welsh singer with a powerhouse voice took the charts by storm with a Bond theme that would become her signature song, even though she never had another hit in America. Shirley Bassey's booming vocals on Goldfinger reached number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100 in March 1965, selling over 1 million copies in the United States. The song became so iconic that Bassey performed it at the Oscars nearly 50 years later. But here's the strange part. Despite recording over 70 albums and becoming a dame in the UK, Bassey never again cracked the American top 40. Number 2. The Boy from New York City, the Ad-Libs. Did you know one of 1965's biggest hits almost never happened? After years of performing as the creators, without catching a break, 5 friends from Bayonne, New Jersey, made one last attempt that would forever change their lives. The story behind the Ad-Libs and their hit, The Boy from New York City, reveals how the collision of fading doo-wop and emerging soul created a magical musical moment. These street corner singers had been honing their harmonies since the late 1950s when they finally caught their break with Redbird Records. This wasn't just any label. It was founded by legendary songwriting duo Jerry Leiber and Mike Stoller, the same guys who worked with Elvis Presley and the Coasters. What made their sound special was Mary Ann Thomas's distinctive female lead vocals, blending with male doo-wop harmonies. This combination bridged 2 musical eras, creating something fresh yet familiar, during a time when American R&B was evolving alongside the dominant British invasion. Number 3. The Jerk, the Larks. When record companies were scrambling to compete with the British invasion, one Los Angeles R&B group found success through an entirely different route: America's dance obsession. The Jerk wasn't just a dance, it was a cultural phenomenon that transformed the Larks from local performers to chart toppers, almost overnight. What made the Jerk so wildly popular was its accessibility. Unlike complex dance routines, this one featured simple, energetic movements that anyone could learn. Just stand in place and make jerky motions with your arms and torso. The dance spread like wildfire across America's dance floors in early 1965, creating the perfect opportunity for the Larks to provide its soundtrack. The most fascinating part? The Jerk wasn't even supposed to be the hit. Money Records originally released it as the B-side to a song called Forget Me. But radio DJs had different ideas, flipping the record over and sending the song soaring to number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100 by February 1965. Number 4. Liar, Liar, the Castaways. Unlike the Larks' dance craze success, the next song on our list came straight from a parent's garage in Minneapolis. In 1965, 5 ordinary teenagers with more enthusiasm than technical skill formed the Castaways, joining thousands of other young Americans inspired by the British invasion. Recording at K-Bank Studios, these high schoolers created Liar, Liar, a breathless accusation of betrayal, featuring a frantic farfisa organ and simple guitar chords that somehow connected with an entire generation. The song's unpolished production stood in stark contrast to the carefully crafted studio hits dominating radio, giving it an authenticity that resonated with young listeners. When Liar Liar reached number 12 on the Billboard charts, these Minnesota teens found themselves thrust into a whirlwind of national TV appearances and tours. As band member Dick Roby later reflected, "We were just kids having fun, and suddenly we were signing autographs and touring the country." Number 5. You Turn Me On, Ian Whitcomb. While the Castaways were riding high on teenage excitement, across the pond a very different kind of one-hit wonder was taking shape. Unlike those Minnesota garage rockers, Ian Whitcomb brought impressive credentials to his accidental stardom. At 23, this Oxford University graduate had spent years immersed in traditional jazz with his college band Bluesville before accidentally creating America's most suggestive hit of 1965. The genesis of You Turn Me On couldn't have been less calculated. During a routine recording session, Whitcomb began experimenting with an exaggerated falsetto, complete with breathy groans that would make censors nervous. What started as studio goofing around quickly became serious business when record executives heard commercial potential in those suggestive sighs. Number 6. You've Got to Hide Your Love Away, the Silkie. The British invasion brought many artists to American shores, but only one unknown folk group could claim direct musical support from the Beatles themselves. In an era when a nod from the Fab Four could make careers overnight, the Silkie managed to score a top 10 hit with John Lennon at the production helm and Paul McCartney on guitar. Yet somehow, their name has been almost entirely forgotten to history. This Hertfordshire quartet specialized in traditional folk harmonies at a pivotal moment when the music world was rapidly evolving. Their big break came when Brian Epstein noticed their talent and arranged a recording session at the Beatles Publishing Company's studio, where they laid down their version of You've Got to Hide Your Love Away. Number 7. Baby, The Rain Must Fall, Glenn Yarbrough. As folk music faded into the background, one man managed to buck the trend with a movie theme that became his signature sound. Glenn Yarbrough wasn't a newcomer when Baby, The Rain Must Fall climbed to number 12 on the charts. He'd already established himself as the distinctive tenor voice of the Limelighters, performing at prestigious venues like Carnegie Hall and cultivating a dedicated following in the folk scene. What makes Yarbrough's story fascinating is how differently he viewed success compared to other artists of his era. While many chased fame, he saw music primarily as a means to fund his true passion, sailing. He reportedly felt uncomfortable with the business aspects of the music industry, preferring to focus on artistic expression rather than commercial success. Number 8. A Walk in the Black Forest, Horst Jankowski. From a reluctant folk star to a surprising German sensation, in the middle of rock and roll's loudest era, something completely unexpected happened on American radio. Between the Rolling Stones and the Beach Boys, a simple instrumental piano piece with no words, no guitar solos, and not a single "yeah, yeah, yeah" somehow climbed to number 12 on the Billboard charts. Horst Jankowski wasn't an unknown in Europe. Before his unexpected American success, he'd established himself as a respected jazz pianist in Germany's music scene. His recording of A Walk in the Black Forest featured a distinctive bass line that literally mimicked footsteps through the woods, combined with his light-touch piano playing that created an instantly memorable melody. Number 9. Ooh, Wee Baby, I Love You, Fred Hughes. As European instrumentals were making their final stand on American charts, the soul music scene was reaching its emotional peak. Behind Fred Hughes's raw, gospel-infused passion on Ooh Wee Baby, I Love You lies a bittersweet story of extraordinary talent hampered by circumstances beyond his control. Hughes didn't stumble into soul music by accident. His foundation and gospel singing groups honed the emotional delivery that made his breakthrough hit so powerful. When he finally got his chance in the recording studio, he delivered a performance that showcased his remarkable ability to shift between controlled verses and explosive choruses, a technique perfected through years of backing other artists. Number 10. Rescue Me, Fontella Bass, not in the text but fits the theme. Record label troubles weren't unique to Fred Hughes, but imagine fighting not just for promotion, but for the very credit of songs you helped create. When Fontella Bass released Rescue Me in September 1965, she couldn't have known the ironic truth that her own career would eventually need rescuing from the very industry that made her famous. Growing up as the daughter of Martha Bass from the Clara Ward Singers, wasn't just a musical education. It was a masterclass in gospel power. This St. Louis native brought that church-trained intensity to Chess Records, where her million-selling hit showcased a perfect marriage of sacred technique and secular subject matter.